Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Lanes Podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to talk to you about our new sponsor that's come on board, Books and Gifts Direct. Books and Gifts Direct is Australia's largest direct seller of books and gifts. They sell their products from lunchrooms and reception desks and are in more than 25,000 workplaces across Australia. Their books and gifts sell up to 70% off recommended retail price, and as the leading direct seller of books and gifts across Australia, they have a strong buying power, and without the overheads of a shopfront, they can afford to pass on significant savings. So guys, you want to have a look more at this website, our new sponsor, make sure you click the link below. It will be in the description box or the comments. But most importantly, let's get into the show. All right, and we're back on today's show of another episode of the Lanes Podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to be wrapping up the absolute craziness of the trade that the Chicago Bulls, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Portland Trail Blazers just pulled off. And apart from that, this is going to be a pretty quick one. But yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the show. Welcome to another episode of the Lanes Podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Easily one of the most interesting podcasts I think I'm going to do to date because I'm just spitballing off this one straight off the top of my head. Chicago Bulls have done a sign-in trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Lauri Markkanen going to the Cleveland Cavaliers on a 4-year, $64 million deal. In return, the Chicago Bulls get Derrick Jones Jr. and a protected first-rounder. And also in the trade, Portland is included. Larry Nance Jr. goes to Portland. So, first initial reactions to this trade. Did the Cavaliers remember that they just drafted Evan Mobley and signed Jarrett Allen to an extension? And did they also realize that they have a guy called Kevin Love on their roster? What's doing? I'm not too sure what they're doing there. Like, everything about this league is like the NBA is going completely small, have a lot of wings, have a lot of guards, scorers, and they've gone completely opposite. They've gone super big. They've got 4 legit bigs who could play at any other club in the NBA, I would say. It's strange because now you've got 3 really young players in Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, and Lauri Markkanen. You've got Kevin Love, who's on a really big contract, but then the reports come out they're not going to buy him out. What are they doing? Like, they can only play 2 big men at a time. I don't think they're going to play Evan Mobley at a 3-man position. I think that would be a bit ludicrous, but, I'm not too sure what's going on with Cleveland on this trade. 4 years, $67 million. It's not a bad price. It's not a great price. I think he's been pretty inconsistent of past years, and I think it's actually a really good thing for Chicago to get him off their roster. I think that the best thing that they did was they got something in return of him. They got a player like Derrick Jones Jr., who can be a really valuable piece for them. He can run a small ball 4. He could even end up starting in this team. You never know what they're going to do with Patrick Williams. I believe he's more of a 3, but I think they're going to try to transition him into a 3-4. He's a pretty big player, but I like the Derrick Jones Jr. piece for them. They obviously get a future first and a second rounder. So I think it's a pretty good trade for Chicago. On the Portland side of things, I'm interested to see how he goes, Larry Nance Jr. in that team. I don't think he will start, but at the same time, they don't really have anyone right now that would start at that 4-man position. You see their team and you see they have players like Damian Lillard. He'll start at point guard. CJ McCollum will start at 2, absolutely. Yusuf Nurkic will start at the 5. Right now at the 4, I'm drawing a blank. I would say Robert Covington would start at the 4-man position for them. And then the 3-man position, most likely Norman Powell. That's not a great team. It's a playoff caliber team. It will get you through, but that's not a great position for them. But, I think that trade, it's not a bad trade because Derrick Jones Jr., you weren't playing him a lot. He doesn't fit in their rotation, but in saying that, now Carmelo Anthony's gone off the books. He's gone to the LA Lakers. Maybe they could have used a player like Derrick Jones Jr., a wing/4, because that's kind of what Carmelo was. He was playing that in-between role, and he played it really, really good, I thought. So it's going to be interesting. I thought he could have been a really good piece for them. They've obviously gone for a protected pig in someone like Larry Nance Jr. He'll play that 4-man position, but you got to realize they have signed Cody Zeller on that team, so they kind of have 2 players that are very similar in position, kind of athletic bigs, get to the paint, roll really well, just do all the dirty work, do their jobs really well. So if you look at it, it is an upgrade for someone like Cleveland getting Lauri Markkanen, but then I think Larry Nance is probably a better fit. He's a bit cheaper too, and I think it's a troubling trade for Cleveland. I was talking about Portland, but really troubling. I think they had a player like Evan Mobley who was going to come in, and I think he could have started for them. I don't know what they would have done with someone like Kevin Love and Evan Mobley. Are they going to share the pieces? I do believe that someone like Kevin Love is definitely going to end up getting traded. This trade does see, the movement of youth in Cleveland in a sense, and I really do think that Kevin Love's going to get traded. Where he will go, it is unsure. There has been reports that Brooklyn are looking to get him, and I'm not too sure, if he would really fit in there. They do have players like Blake Griffin who did a really good job for them. Nicholas Claxton, I think he's had a really good season, last year. I think he fits really well with them, just a scrappy big man that gets the job done. They do have DeAndre Jordan there. Apparently he's looking to get bought out or looking to get traded. Apparently he's been in trade rumors, but I'll be highly unlikely. I think it's highly unlikely he gets traded or bought out before the start of the season. I could see him get traded during the season, but in saying that, he's really, really good friends with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and that was a big piece of getting them to go to Brooklyn. When they signed with Brooklyn, if you don't remember, DeAndre Jordan signed on that day with them. So it's very interesting to see that he's in trade rumors. He's obviously got $10 million in salary, for this upcoming season and next season. And I do believe it's dead cap. And if you really think about it, he doesn't really play a lot. I don't think he played a lot of playoff minutes in that second round, definitely. So yeah, I do see, Brooklyn thinking, look, guys, if you want to win, he's not really an asset to us right now. Let me see what I can do. Maybe I can flip this guy for an asset, because Sean Marks has proven to be a really good GM in his time at Brooklyn. I think he's, turned that team into a playoff caliber team to a championship caliber team in a matter of years. And I do believe that he's able to go out and get the big fishes. I do believe a coach like Steve Nash is going to have a really good season this season. But in saying that, Kevin Love, I'm not too sure what Kevin Love's going to do. If I'm him, I'm saying, look, Cleveland, trade me to somewhere I want. I don't mind how long it takes, but trade me somewhere I want. If I'm him and I'm looking at destinations where I would really want to go, I would say teams like Lakers, obviously. You obviously have someone like the Mavericks for me. I think that would be a good piece. I would say a team like, it's interesting, Miami would be a really good fit for him. But in saying that, you can't really make the cap work. It's super duper interesting, because I thought that Cleveland would have been looking at someone like Kristaps Porzingis to trade Kevin Love for, and I thought that would have been a much better piece for them. I do understand that, they have a player like Evan Mobley and then a player like Jared Allen, but at the end of the day, Kristaps Porzingis I still think is better than Jared Allen. I'd rather him on my team than Jared Allen. So you can even go out and trade someone like Jared Allen, someone of some team would want him at a certain team at a certain time. He's still an asset to this team of Cleveland, and he'd be an asset to any team he'd go to. But I'm very interested to see how this works. Lauri Markkanen, for me, never worked in Cleveland. He had a couple good, spurts of seasons, but he never really worked out. I do believe that Chicago got better by addition, by subtraction, if you look at it. Derrick Jones Jr. is probably not a better player or a better asset than someone like Lauri Markkanen, but I think he's a better fit for this team. He's going to come in, if he comes off the bench or he starts, he's going to come in with a lot of energy at all times, a lot of pace, and he's going to really push the ball when he gets it. And let's not forget, he's a super duper athletic player, and they have someone like Lonzo who's got really good vision. A lot of people would say great vision, whatever you want to say, but he's got really good vision. I'd say there'd be a lot of highlight plays there in Chicago. You look at a team lineup of Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Derrick Jones Jr., Nikola Vucevic, sixth man, Patrick Williams, seventh man, someone like Kobe White. That's a really decent team for me. That's a young team that's not really mortgaging their future in a sense. They've got two older guys there in DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic, but they have mostly younger players for the future and for a team that wants to win now. I would say Chicago got better off this trade. I would say Cleveland is perplexing. I think Cleveland's just trying to get as many good players as they can and try to get as many players as they can that, can be assets for them. Maybe they're looking to get him, see if he works out for a season and a half, or if Kevin Love doesn't work or Jared Allen doesn't work and they trade either of those players. But it is interesting. It's another trade that, a lot of people still believe the big man can be an asset in this NBA. I still believe the big man can be an asset in the NBA to an extent, absolutely. But it is interesting to see that, they've stockpiled on four legit bigs that can't play wings. They can only play a 4-man or a 5-man depending on where they are. And that's really interesting for me. I think that's something that you're not seeing in this NBA anymore. What other teams have players that are just super duper big? I couldn't name one right now off the top of my head, and I'm not even thinking super duper hard, but like there's no team that has a heap of bigs that are usually probably the second, third best player on their team. You think about it, not in the sense of Evan Mobley, but Jarrett Allen has been a really good asset to his teams when he's been on there. He's obviously played with a team like Brooklyn, who's had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, but he's been a really good player. I'll change that. Sorry, being like a top 4, top 5, a starting caliber position. All 4 of those players are starting caliber. Kevin Love's been a multiple All-Star, won a championship with that club. I believe he's the only player from that 2016 Cavaliers team that's still on the team. And you look at that, that's pretty interesting. And yeah, I just think that all those players that Cleveland have got are all starting caliber teams. If it's me, I'm starting Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. And it's interesting to see how that goes, because now you've got 2 legit 4-men in Kevin Love and Larry Markkinen. Maybe they play them at both at the same time. I'm not a head coach in the NBA right now, but I just look as a fan's perspective of the NBA. I just think it's a move that where everyone's zigging. Someone like Cleveland says, "Oh, let's zag," but at the same time, it's not. I don't think it's going to work, and I could be absolutely wrong, but I don't think it's going to work having 4 legit big men. Now you've got Darius Garland. You have a player like Colin Sexton, Chetty Osman, Isaac Okoro, and then you have 4 legit bigs in your 7-man rotation. I think it should be the opposite. I think you got to have a couple wings, couple guards, and then 2 or 3 really legit bigs, and that's about it. So I'm very interested to see how this trade goes. He's kind of like the last big name that just went off the market. Another good couple people that's still on board, that are still on the free agency board. Players like Paul Millsap, he's still there. I think he's going to be a really interesting piece wherever he goes. I hope he goes to somewhere that's a playoff contender. He'll be a really good piece anywhere he goes. I don't think he's going to get a massive contract. I don't think he's going to get, a small contract. I think he might go for something like not the vet minimum, the mid-level exception. I think that's something that he's looking to sign. I think that the rumblings were Golden State Warriors were looking to get him, and I think he'd be a great fit there. Obviously, he's a smart player. He plays super duper hard. He can be a real good asset to their team. You look at it, he can be a nice backup 4-5 if they need it. But it is still super duper interesting to see what's going to happen in this NBA. I know that there's not as much news coming out, but I did definitely want to do a podcast on this, because at the end of the day, this was an interesting trade for me. I thought this was one of the most interesting trades I've seen in a long, long time, and I just really wanted to hop on here and just give you guys my opinion. So, guys, if you really did like that content, make sure you like, share, and subscribe all the content. You'll definitely hear that later, how to do all that stuff, but thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good day. Take care. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Lanes Podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe all of the content. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Lanes Podcast. That's all in lower caps on Instagram. Link will be below in the description. Thanks for listening, guys, but most importantly, have a great day.